Well, what's the likelihood that you're going to be able to speak to how many different audiences do you serve? And then also cater to all those on one landing page on your home site? It's probably slim to none. So creating these individual landing pages, we choose to do that in GHL, allows us to create and speak to really niche audiences. If it's B2B, if it's just dentists, like I said earlier, man, this page, once those dentists land on this page, it's exactly what they care about.
Hey, it's the Profit Answer Man, Rocky Lalvani. If you're new to the podcast, check out my interview with Mike Michalowicz. It's episode number 2. If you want to hear about each chapter in the Profit First book, go back and listen to episodes 3 through 13. Episode 1 is the why and how. On the Profit Answer Man, we learn money mastery without all the complicated accounting mumbo-jumbo using a simple system. Your accountant is busy documenting your transactions and creating a rearview mirror of what happened. My guess is you don't even look at the reports they sent you. If you're like most business owners, you struggle with this, and it's not your fault. We aren't taught money in school, and accountants aren't taught how to be profitable. The Profit First system created by Mike Michalowicz works, and he certified me to help you implement the system in your business. Remember, the new equation is sales minus profit equals expenses. Let's face it, without cash flow, you can't pay your employees, buy needed materials, or pay your mortgage and support your family. I help you to do that and more, so you can focus on the parts of the business you love and receive the rewards for your labor and investment into your business. The stronger you are as a business owner, the more jobs you create, the better we are as a country. Small business owners are the backbone of America, and for that, you deserve to be well rewarded. Just remember, more revenue does not equal more profit. That's why we focus on the bottom line. Hey, I'm going to be speaking at a Real Estate and Wealth Builders Conference in Phoenix this May. If you want to come hang out with me and get all your questions answered, plus learn about real estate, check it out. I'm going to put a link and a discount code in the show notes. And if you go back and listen to episode 144, you'll learn more about what it is. Our goal is to help you grow and be more profitable. And that's our discussion for today. But it all starts with you being clear on who you are, who you serve, and how you do it, and then understanding the metrics behind it. Listen in as we cover those specifics with real-life examples that you can learn from and implement in your business. Driving profitable sales is always our goal, and doing so with the least amount of spending and efforts. Today, we have on a fellow entrepreneur to share what he has learned on the journey, along with some actionable takeaways. Tyler Horsley is the CEO. He's an investor. He does private equity. He's a business growth advisor. He's a speaker. He's a philanthropist. He loves AI, and he's an investor. Let's meet Tyler and learn from him. Welcome to the Profit Answer Man, Tyler Horsley. It's great to have you join us today.
It's great to be here. Appreciate you having me on.
Looking forward to learning from you. Can you share a little bit about yourself and your business?
Sure. I have been operating and founded a business growth agency. And the differentiator there between digital marketing agency and other various names that everybody's heard is we try to address from A to Z all of the outsourceable opportunities to help create value, drive qualified traffic, and then actually close that traffic for our clients. So most of our partners hire us to grow their bottom line revenue.
You said grow their bottom line revenue.
Right. Profitability.
That is not what most people say, because most people, when the conversation starts, it's usually, we're going to grow the top line. And if you ask people what their bottom line is, I would say the vast majority don't even know the answer to that, or they might find out once a year at tax time. So to come at it from growing the bottom line profitably is impressive.
It's what keeps the lights on, right?
That is what keeps the lights on. Cash flow, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So what is the number one thing someone can do to grow their business profitably?
Mm-hmm. I'll answer that with a few different examples, just for real life application. But one of the biggest things that I've learned and being in the marketing and business growth space is a lot of people are very quick to, whether they've read a book, they've watched YouTube, they've listened to a podcast, or they go to a seminar, they're very quick to jump into the actionable marketing items, right? And so some of those common and well-known actionable items are SEO or digital advertising or mailers or what have you. And so many of those jump into, let's drive traffic. These people must want what I'm selling. Let's hurry up and, just do as much as we can to drive them to our site. And here's where this falls apart. Statistically, a lot of those individuals, if you haven't done some of this work, which is leading to the answer of defining who you are, what you do best, and what your core differentiator is. One of the phrases that I use to help people understand that is, if I lined you up with 5 of your other competitors right now, and I put you in an auditorium with 15,000 prospects, and I said, with a microphone, you have 10 seconds to tell me why you're better than everyone else standing up here, go. If it's, well, we've been in business for 28 years and we really care, it's like we've already failed, right? For one. For two, on the other side, some people are really well-spoken around their core differentiators, but they're really long-winded. So you might go to a site and think about complex models, right? Or complex, industries, nutraceuticals. If somebody's selling liposomal glutathione and I go to their page and I'm the average Jill or Jane or Joe, what is that? So I might go to their page and I might not understand that's actually a mercury detox, and liposomes are a delivery mechanism for, taking these supplements. So if we kind of have a fun rule here that if your grandmother or a 5-year-old can't understand what you're doing or who you are right when they get to your site, we're doing it wrong. And so those are the two concepts that we think about right out of the gate. And that is one of the biggest things that I think a lot of organizations miss. Sure, that kind of rolls into web design and other features, because by nature, if we're refining some of that messaging up front, which is what we do with everybody we work with, before we start spending money and driving traffic, that messaging and that refinement up front is one of the biggest things that you can do to make a huge difference. And I can go on, by the way, just in terms of the next steps, but I'll pause there for a moment.
No, we'll go on to the next steps. But I think the important thing is when you come up with what you think is different and unique about you, is to go to the market and see out of that group of 15,000, how many of them raise their hand and say, that's what I want. Because you might be phenomenal in what you do and you might have a killer marketing message, but none of them may care.
Right.
It might not be what they want. And so you have to make sure they actually respond before you put all the money behind it. And I think that's what happens a lot. We throw out an advertising campaign that hasn't been tested. Does it resonate with what the people say? And the biggest, way we tell people to figure that out is go into the room of 15,000 people, grab 10 of them, buy them lunch, sit down and talk to them. And you're going to find that those 10 people are all going to say something the same way. And they're going to use words that are similar. When you start grabbing their words and start talking to them, they'll be like, oh my God, they know me. This is the one.
That's right. Yeah. I'd even add to that, make sure they're strangers. They're not your family and friends. They're not people who are going to tell you what you want to hear. They've, the more distant from knowing who you are prior to that moment, the better. And sometimes we have some strategists here locally. They'll show up to offer generation workshops, which is what we do to actually really help define what that is. They'll show up without even looking at the site. Like, who are you? What do you do? It's like, well, if I can't tell by looking at your site, we already have our work cut out for us right out of the gate. Yeah. Yeah, so that's good methodology. Take them out to lunch. We can also do that digitally, right?
You can do it
just
digitally.
Run. Yep.
Correct. And like you said, they need to be. And what we've also found, though, sometimes is instead of saying, well, let's just say I had a product that was worth $300.
Sure.
You offer them $50 and say, come give us your feedback. And at the end, you go, would you rather have the $50 or the $300 product? And if they all walk away with the $50 in cash, they just voted.
Sure. That's right.
That even though they told you what you wanted to hear, they weren't truthful.
Yeah, that's right. We do, whenever we break into new segments, sometimes we'll do that. We will genuinely offer free services to 3 to 5 who we believe are qualified. And if anybody is out there listening, like, oh, I could give away free service. I think I have some margin there just to build up some case studies and see how people respond. Your product or your service is still valuable, right? So that doesn't just mean give it to the first person. That I just encourage that person listening to be really critical of capture like 50 people who want something for free and then interview them, right? The rule of reciprocity. They'll give you the information. How big is your company? And essentially you want to create the profile of who do I want to work with? And then maybe give that free value to those folks. So
what's the next step after that?
Once you have defined your core differentiators, who you are, there's clarity. So we talked a little bit about, before the recording about EOS. It's just as an example, like one of those things in there is your VTO, right? Is your traction organizer. If you had 15 seconds in an elevator with Warren Buffett and you had to tell them who you are and what you do, and it needs to sound better than just the generic, what everyone else says. Once we've figured that out, and we call that like an offer or value workshop, then we move forward with margin analysis, right? So back to that adding to the bottom line, what we need to, and I'll give you some real life examples here. One of our partners here is a national consultant. They happen to be a consultant for dentist conglomerates and dental owners. And they'll come into a dentist office, they'll work with the owner, and they will either help position their finance, clean it up a little bit so they can be positioned to get a loan, whether that be for rehab of the practice or building onto it. And then B, they also look at their marketing and quite a bit more. So they kind of do like 10 different things. And when you are talking to a medical professional or somebody running their own practice, they have very little time. And in fact, a lot of founders have very little time. So if you're selling B2B, that conciseness is really important. So we ran them through this workshop and we basically find out, one, from their margin, if we can close a deal, that's $50,000 a month guaranteed. These are 12-month contracts. So it's like, okay, how much are we willing to pay to get a new $50,000 person closed? Not a lead, because leads are easy, but like closed. And so we find out all these things and all this value. We developed a loss leader of this free analysis, right? So maybe the offer they responded to is, we can help you find $150,000 in profit a year that you're missing right now because of disorganization and all these other reasons. And we'll help you do it for free. And so putting together the initial analysis, anybody reading that is like, you're going to help me find $150,000 for free? Oh, and the other thing is, if you qualify, because again, your product and time is valuable, you can fill those funnels with these offers because you do plan on offering that to one of your prospects. But maybe you find the top 5 that really fit the criteria. In this person's case, they saw the NDAs, they saw the P&Ls, they saw these things that kind of clearly articulate value. They knew they could provide the value, right? Well, this other offer that we generated is not only will we give you this, we'll fly to you for free. But what we really found out is out of the 25 people that we drive through, 2 to 3 might qualify for that deal. Of course, we'll spend $800, a couple $100 to and from on the flight, a couple $100 on the hotel. And now out of those 8 people, we've closed 3. Maybe we spent 10 grand to find all those people. We just made 150K, right? And so to summarize all of that, once you know who you are and why you're different, analyzing margin and what is your true cost, what are you really willing to pay to get a closed lead, then we can get more creative, which is step number 2, find an offer that someone would have to be foolish to say no to. So, yeah.
And I think that's a big problem in today's world is trust and BS.
Right. That's right.
Because there's a ton of it on both sides. And so being able to do that and to do that well, and then you said it, but I think it was almost glanced over. You've got to make sure that you've got the margins to pay for this kind of marketing. Like, right. You've got to make sure that it in the end, you have the capacity to do this. You've got it systematized and easy, And then the end game is that you have a highly profitable client that you can work with. Because if you don't meet those steps or you're not, I'm going to say wishy-washy on it, like, oh, they're close enough, or maybe we'll do it for them, even though they don't meet our criteria.
Yeah, that's
you're
right.
chasing, you've got to be clear and you've got to follow the process. And you do have to weed people out or create a different offer for those people. Sorry, we can't do this for you, but we have X. And so
that's right.
Being able to funnel through that. Okay.
Yep.
What's
knowing who to say no to, right?
Yes.
So
what's the next step?
So building on what you said there, it is, and there's tons of cliches, right? It's better to be an expert of one than a jack of all trades. Better be, inch wide, a mile deep, than vice versa. It's super important, especially for entrepreneurs or founders struggling with profitability. There's going to be temptation. Man, this is money now. I could take them. They don't exactly fit in our thing, but I think we could do X, Y, and Z. If you say yes to those things, even one of them, you are now no longer scalable. You're now going outside of your area of expertise and you're offering things that won't turn out well. Take it from me, always from experience. I've done that before in my early days running an agency, and it's just not good. Nobody's going to you're going to end up overworked. You're going to do things out of scope. They're going to end up underpaying you and still wanting more value, and no one will be happy. So what really focusing and refining on a couple different offers does, that step 2 piece, is it allows us to only know and predict and make sure that we have the capacity for these 3 deliverables and to do them really well, right? So we help our partners plan those types of things. Next step is once you have those ideas, you have those offers, put them into action. So create assets. So what does that look like? This is a no commission or anything like that behind this, but I really love Go High Level. I don't know if you've heard of that platform. It's kind of like a HubSpot or Salesforce alternative, but maybe 1/20th of the cost. So we like it. It's a sales automation platform / CRM. But what that looks like is you have this messaging now and you have these offers. Let's go build them out into landing pages. Now, why not on the home website? Well, what's the likelihood that you're going to be able to speak to how many different audiences do you serve? And then also cater to all those on one landing page on your home site? It's probably slim to none. So creating these individual landing pages, we choose to do that in GHL, allows us to create and speak to really niche audiences. If it's B2B, if it's just dentists, like I said earlier, man, this page, once those dentists land on this page, it's exactly what they care about. If it's customers, it's exactly what they care about. So basically building out the assets, campaigns, and whatever your preferred advertising mechanism is, Google, Facebook, Instagram, etc., LinkedIn, and basically aligning the messaging we figured out through the first 2 steps in the actual creative itself.
So what I like about the landing pages, because what I hear from my clients is, well, I don't know where they came from.
Yeah.
But if I create multiple landing pages, each coming from a different source, then I know, even if it's the same landing page times 5, right? Mm-hmm. I know this person came from this advertising or this coupon or this show, and it brings them in. And then you can also start to see conversions. Okay,
right.
We did X. We spent $10,000 on this ad. It drove this many people to the site. The amount of people who came to the site, this percentage actually gave us their email or did something. Then the next percentage actually turned into proposals. The next percentage turned into a paying client. Now, when we see the math, now we can also see where in the process something broke or where we're not doing something right. And then we can improve it and make a difference. And that all drives back to profitability. Yeah. My clients who can lay that all out for me, it becomes so easy to play with the numbers. Most of them can't.
Right. Naturally, that's your next steps, right? It's like once you have your assets, setting up what I would call clear attribution. So that's your pixels, or this, or that, or the other. Back to Go High Level. The idea here is to be able to, and whether somebody learns this themselves or hires an agency to do it, it's exactly what you said. Here's 5 different offers. They funnel down, and then they get an automatic text, or they subscribe, or they schedule a consultation, or whatever the call to action is. Get started for free is a better call to action than schedule a free consultation. Just as an example, language kind of changes over time. Well, we can actually see exactly that, like, which is the next step. It's setting up tracking on all those devices so that the following step, driving traffic, all that traffic can be measured. And to your point, a lot of founders typically they skip everything that we've just talked about. And it's like, let's go hire an SEO and SEM company and drive ads to our home site. It's like, well, what ads worked? Where did they fall off? Did they not like your offer? Did they not like your price? Did they not like how long it took to get a hold of you? None of that can be learned unless you have a proper funnel in place. And this stuff, just to help this be less intimidating for some listeners, this is not, 6 months to a year stuff. You can pop up funnels in a month. You can learn a lot of this in less than 3 months. You digitally take people out to lunch, like you say. So it's very quick learning.
And what we've started to do, and I've started to see some of my clients do it, they take that information and they throw it into ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And it throws them back. And then now they have something to work from, to tweak and to play with. But I call it writer's block. Maybe that's the right word.
Sure.
But it's at least giving you something to framework off of. Because if you have something to work on, it makes it easier. And throughout this whole process, you can do that. I mean, even from helping you get the email started or creating this script or doing something else, it's amazing how quickly the world is changing and how fast we can do these types of things.
Yeah, it is. I won't lie. Like, even before ChatGPT, we had a natural language processing platform of our own, and basically just crawled the internet, separated sites by topical relevance. So I could say, I only want to see automotive sites, and then on their homepage, how much content do they have? You could even use a lot of other marketing licensing platforms, SEMrush, SpyFu, Ahrefs, and more. And basically see, here's all my competitors. Here's the best ads they've ran in the last 20 years, 10 years, etc. And use that for inspiration, as you said. So it's definitely a cool time to be alive in the marketing world.
And when I started learning about copywriting, that's basically one of the first steps they told you to do was you would go buy a book and it would have the best ads of the last 50 years. And they were just like, all we want you to do is read this book and copy every ad, not to use it, but to, it's literally training you to use certain words and phraseology.
Right.
So that was the old fashioned way to do what now is being done through automation, which is really, really cool. So now we've got people coming to us. They are qualified. They're showing up. What's next?
So, we've done basically set up the tracking on all the assets. We've deployed SEO strategies that are measurable and effective. We've deployed advertising strategies that are measurable and effective. And what that means is hyper-targeted. Again, if it's B2B, and a lot of people should know this, and I like to use metaphors because we use a lot of tech jargon in our space, but it's like, you could go fishing. That's the equivalent of, by the way, SEO or buying keywords on AdWords or Google Ads is what it's called now. But you're waiting for somebody to kind of search for these keywords, and then you get a bite and you can kind of drive them to your site. But there's an entirely separate world that some people, I see a lot of them not utilizing it, and it's outbound, right? So we're going to your prospects against their will and letting them know you exist, because maybe they're happily working with one of your competitors, or maybe they don't know that there's better out there. And so that refining that targeting when you're driving traffic is a super important part I just didn't want to miss. It's like, and back to that offer, if you have a rock star offer, like, hey, look, I don't need a new cleaning service for our building. I'm happy. Somebody comes to me and says, I'll clean your place for free for 3 months, and I guarantee that will be a lower, something really that catches my attention. Like, I might consider that, right? And so once you start driving traffic through those mechanisms, advertising and more, and targeting your audience the right way, measuring, right? So up until now, we've done interviews. We've really found out who you are and your core differentiators. We built offers around that we think people would be foolish not to indulge in. And now we're actually driving those people through this machine that we've just created. And now on the back end, we actually have to measure, like, are our bets converting ultimately? And the cool thing is ultimately, the more budget that you have, that budget will dictate reach and speed at which you learn, which ultimately is speed at which you see success. So if we have $1 a day and we need 1,000 clicks, that might take 1,000 days. If we can spend $1,000 in one day, we can expedite that 3-4 years of learning into one day. So those are kind of the concepts that we help individuals with. And every company is different, right? But it's really being able to have that clear attribution and measure what's working, what's not, cut that 80% of the budget down to the 20 that's working, and start flooring it in that direction and learning who your customer is.
So what do you do when you have a product or service that you're not able to make that big, easy offer to, because
Sure.
your metrics and your back end doesn't support something like that? What do we do in a case like that?
So good examples of cases like that. I'll tell you maybe one of the most difficult niches and clients we see. And by the way, I guess for the encouraging piece, those offers, they work for like 95% of the people that we work with. And Chipotle is one of our clients, Brother, the printer company, Nelnet, all the way down to the local roofing company down the street and everybody in between. We worked with over 2,500 clients. So when you learn a lot, right? And then you have access to this data and you see these like anomalies. One of the companies that I've worked with that was really interesting and that required a lot of creative strategy, all they did was sell to municipalities. So it's like, how are you going to get a hold of local governments or people who hold the keys to budgets when they're not searching for you, right? And so now all of a sudden it's like, well, that gets thrown out of the window. We can't offer them anything. There's a lot of compliance and rules and more. And so positioning yourself as an industry thought leader, not just publishing white papers and putting them on LinkedIn, that's helpful. But back to that lookalike audience targeting, inviting your candidates to a different experience entirely, where you create free value by educating. Essentially, it's kind of like the podcast world as well, just free education. And that might be in the form of a webinar, that might be in the form of a conference, that might be in form genuinely a dinner. And you can bring all these people here and you might be solving a problem or just adding or enhancing their additional, their education. So it's like, we'll help you learn A, B, and C and the new trends that are coming in 2025, et cetera. And so those are kind of things just to build trust in the space. Like, not trying to sell you anything. I just want to provide free value. Here's a learning opportunity that's free. That can get creative again. Here's an offer. Why would you not come to this? It's free, this, that, or the other. And that's a good way to kind of get around those types of things. And it does happen, right? So
that's what this podcast is all about. Learn how to be more profitable for free.
Yep. There you go. Exactly.
It works well. So let's kind of flip to the other side of the business. We've brought in the sales. Now comes the hard part, right? Delivery and
That's
operations and everything like that. Any advice for how a small business owner can find maybe different ways of scaling up or outsourcing to be able to be more efficient?
Yeah, absolutely. Voice of experience here again. I always think experience shares are better than advice any day, right? So it's experience share. Try to, and this is really, I know it's probably really cliche, but try to surround yourself with individuals who you believe are successful, preferably in your same space, whether that's through a forum experience, YPO, EO accelerators, or even just a local mastermind, or even local business groups. But isolation can kill business owners because we tell ourselves stories in our head and we start believing them, and those stories might not be true. So that's just one thing in general, is try to learn from others who have already gone through a lot of this stuff so you can avoid some of those speed bumps. 2, changing your thinking, changing my thinking around, excellent, I have tons of leads. I must need an entire sales staff to close these people, or I must need 20 new additional members to my team. Now I'm committing to FTEs, full-time employees. I'm committing to 401k, all of these things. And some of that work can be done fractionally. And so really trying to think outside the box, just name drop some platforms here. You have Upwork, you have Fiverr, you have different things like that. You have onlinejobs.pa. There's a couple of different things where if you have fractional jobs that need done, really consider the power of outsourcing some of that work to individuals, frankly, who would love to have the opportunity to work for and with you. one of the first questions that comes to mind for a lot of founders when you think about outsourcing, because it's certainly not a new idea. It's like, well, man, how do I know if they're working? How do I pay them? And it's like, one of the platforms that I love is Hubstaff. I almost said HubSpot, but Hubstaff. And what that does is it's basically a time card and a timekeeping platform. So if you could hire these contractors to help you fulfill some of this stuff at a fraction of the cost of a full-time employee, and you have them log into Hubstaff, you can get Big Brother creepy. It can take random screenshots every couple of seconds. It monitors the keyboard movement and mouse and basically dictates an efficiency score to let you know they're not watching Netflix and charging you for it. Or you can go a little bit less, Big Brother than that. But those types of things, I'm just a huge fan of automation, and I'm a huge fan of fractional support, because if I get 500 new clients tomorrow, I can duplicate my contractor efforts or I can reduce them. And you're probably alluding to this as well, but just SOPs, it sounds really boring because you as the founder, you know everything and how your business runs. But if somebody were to come off the street and try to run it for you, how do they know what to do if you're not there to tell them? So having these easy steps 1 through 5, really taking the time to do that hard work is so important, because now you're scalable and repeatable.
And I'm a big fan of EOS and also Mike's book, Clockwork, which is all about building out the systems and processes to do all of that. If you're thinking about outsourcing, we had John Jonas, who's the founder of Online Jobs PH. Did a whole podcast episode with him. Check that out. He gave some really valuable insights about how to bring the people on, how to structure it, everything else with regards to that. But I think the biggest thing is being outside the box. I mean, our tagline is, you don't need more resources, you need to be more resourceful. And I think the more you can do that, the better. And then the other thing is measuring metrics. So I know for one of our clients, they have service people in the field, and they're looking at, okay, you're clocking 8 hours. How many billable hours do you have to the client? And they didn't even complain about it. All they did was say, okay, you're only 50% billable. And then they set a target, say, well, you should be 80% billable. And people naturally, when they have clarity, will start to fix themselves.
Sure, that's right.
And if after a while they don't, then you know where your bottleneck is and what you need to do to change it. But at least everyone has clarity of what's going on within the organization. You're not having arguments and fights and all of this back and forth. The numbers speak for themselves. These are the standards, and you set reasonable standards. And that's a big part of what we do with a lot of the different businesses we work with, is help them to set the right metrics, because that's also the thing. You set the wrong metrics, they'll do what you tell them to, and you'll have unintended consequences. So we always try to make sure we set the right metrics, and you adjust them over time. Nothing's written in stone here. Everything is written on paper, and we can change it if it doesn't work the way it should have.
Yeah.
Is there anything that we should have talked about that we didn't get a chance to?
I think, just what you covered at the end there, I guess, from an organizational standpoint, because we've talked about, some of the really important things to think about if you're trying to really grow your company and separate yourself from the thousands of other people likely doing similar things, and then how to get found and then how to kind of manicure those leads, again, through sales automation platforms. If you can automatically self-schedule a lead or help them close and automate more of that, you've now just bought yourself more time, the most valuable resource, right? So I like your point on the scorecards. I call them scorecards, right? Because we're EOS as well. We like that space also and take little pieces from that. But one of our implementers called it a beach scorecard, right? So it's like, if you're the founder and you're laying on the beach and you got to see 5 numbers once a week, what would those 5 numbers be that would give you complete relaxation and knowing that your business is moving in the right way? And so you guys doing that, Rocky, is a big deal.
Yeah. And, I was just having a call right before I hopped on with you, and we were talking about what is the lead indicator, and then because the P&L at the end of the day is the lagging indicator.
That's right. Yeah.
It's what happened last month. It's retro. So what is the lead indicator of what's going on in the business that allows us to know that things are okay going forward? And I've got some clients where we do cash flow management, and literally we're looking out 6 to 10 months and we're like, things are okay, thumbs up. Or we can look at it and go, thumbs down, we got a problem coming. And we can see it. So what are we going to change to fix it? So
yeah,
phenomenal.
It's always good. It is. Yeah. And it's like, I've met a lot of founders who myself, when I first started, it's like really good at sales or really good at revenue growth. But yeah, if you don't have an eye on your budget or any of those types of plans or adequate scorecards, it's like you're basically flying a plane and your gas gauge is broken. It's like you can hope, but it's really good to have those optics. So I guess last thing I would just add, since you had asked, it's I would find, and it doesn't mean that you need to work with, but certainly find partners. Back to that adding free value, the same thing, practicing what we preach. Can you add a free value or a free loss leader or a differentiator to your audience? We believe in doing the same, right, in the marketing space. So it's try to find a qualified marketing partner who's willing to tell you this story and educate and give you this value for free up front. Not only for trust building, but just to help you better, have a more discerning mindset when you're kind of shopping around. Because there's a lot of great salespeople. You mentioned BS earlier. There's a lot of that in this world for sure. But if they can clearly articulate, where it is that you see clear opportunity for growth, like, man, that's a great experience. And a lot of that you can get for free these days. And then if you want them to execute it, they can. But that's what I'd encourage everybody to do. So,
and I will say, let's just face it, right? Marketers know how to market. The question is, can they market you? And will they understand your business and your client and do that? And I think that's where the disconnect happens. They're really good at sales. They're not always so good at delivering for you what you need. And so you just be careful. And there's a ton of free information out there. There's tons of things you can learn. It's just a matter of how much time and effort do you have, and who do you partner with, and who do you do it well. I love the airplane reference. We do that a lot in our marketing materials. I mean, let's face it. If you're flying in the clouds and you can't see, your gut is normally wrong. And the pilots who've done that usually find themselves on the ground and not in a soft landing.
Right.
You've got to have the gauges that tell you where you're going, how fast you're going, whether or not you have fuel, cash to make it to your destination. And the reality is an airplane is always off course, but yet it finds that runway and it lands because you are constantly course correcting, because you have a clear target and you can constantly find it and make changes, and you're going to hit turbulence, right? I think that's the one thing a lot of business owners don't realize, that we have those conversations. Yep, it's a turbulent month. You got smacked in the face. Now what? It happens.
Yep. And back to profit first mentality. It's like, paying yourself during those times when the times are good, saving it up before famine is super important. Can be the difference between making or breaking a company during hard times. So.
Very much so. If people would like to learn more about you, your company, your services, what's the best way for them to do that?
Sure. Tyler at nuclearnetworking.com. Happy to chat with you. Free education. I just love conversating anyway. So feel free to reach out.
And we'll put that in show notes. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Can you explain what you do in a few seconds so that a child understands? For us, we help you to have a growing and more profitable business. Too often, I see money wasted on marketing, and that's one area we help our clients figure out, and we measure the results. Every business should have good dashboards that show them early leading indicators all the way through lagging indicators. Profit First does that in your bank account, but we layer in so many more tools on top of that to ensure you have an even earlier warning and can diagnose where in the business you have an issue. Once you're clear, then we can throw money at the marketing engine. But we always watch the gauges to make sure it's performing. I would also echo the sentiment that you need to be around people who can help you grow. Find a coach, join a mastermind group, read a book to help you grow and improve. I've used all of the above. And remember, as we always say, you don't need more resources. You need to be more resourceful. Remember to focus on the bottom line.
If you'd like for us to be a part of your profitability journey, we have different programs available ranging from do-it-yourself to one-on-one coaching. Our course, The Profit Blueprint, teaches you everything you need to know to transform your profitability. There are 3 different tiers ranging from DIY to done with you so that businesses of all sizes can get the support that's best. Join the waitlist in the show notes to get more information and be a part of the next cohort. If you want a done-for-you service, you can hire us as your Chief Profitability Officers. We only work with a handful of clients, so they all get our full attention. We work with business owners who have or are growing to $500,000 to $10 million in revenue. You can use the scheduling link in the show notes to get on our calendar for a good fit conversation to see if we're the right people to support you and how we can help you.
This episode of the Profit Answer Man podcast is brought to you by SMBpodcastnetwork.com. The network is a collection of podcasts and shows from around the internet which focus on bringing you interviews with amazing guests who share actionable advice, ideas, and information for small and medium-sized business owners and entrepreneurs. Visit www.smbpodcastnetwork.com to find more great shows and easily subscribe to be notified of new episodes. It's a great way to discover quality content. If you've discovered us via the network, then I hope you enjoy today's show and will consider subscribing directly so you never miss our episodes. Remember to check out my other podcast, Richer Soul, where we talk about how to live the ultimate life and be the best business owner you can be. As we close out, let's repeat the mantra. Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash is king. Have an abundant and profitable week.